Alien Covenant is a 2017 science fiction film from director Ridley Scott, which carries on the long-running film franchise he started with 1979's Alien. Much like that film, this prequel sees a small crew of space explorers getting into a whole world of trouble when they come face to face with the terrifying and extremely deadly xenomorph.
Holy!
On the surface, once again, much like the original, Covenant is a futuristic slasher film in which the crew are picked off one by one in exceedingly gory fashion by a brutal killer. But the film is also much more than that. Dig a little deeper and you will find a story that looks at some of the bigger questions of humanity. Where do we come from? What is our purpose? Why do we have free will? And what place does faith have in a scientific world? The film uses the character of David, an android created by mankind, to delve into these philosophical questions. Covenant takes place after the film Prometheus, where we find David making his way to the homeworld of an alien race known as the Engineers, believed to be responsible for the creation of humanity. The word covenant comes from the Bible. It refers to the promise made by God to never again wipe out mankind, his creation, by means of a flood as he did during the time of Noah. So it's very interesting to see that when David finds the homeworld of the Engineers, he rains down a biological weapon upon them, essentially wiping them out with a flood. The creation kills the creator with his own means of annihilation. This scene speaks volumes about the way in which mankind has attempted to kill the very idea of the existence of God. On this level, David works as an almost Nietzschean representation of man, one who believes that God has outlived his usefulness. But his ability to do so only comes from the free will that God gave him in the first place. This is illustrated later on in the film in a scene between David and another android called Walter. Walter is a lot like David, only he has a completely different set of programming, so he doesn't have the level of free will that David has. The subject of free will, or the lack thereof, comes up in a conversation between the two. They talk about how David is able to love as a result of the free will that he's been granted. But also as a result, he's able to choose to go his own way, which he does when he rejects God, his creator, humanity.
I was not made to serve. Neither were you.
He becomes a creator himself, thereby, in his mind, supplanting God. That's what mankind does in the Bible. He's given this gift of free will, and as a result he turns from God and he goes his own way. He puts himself at the centre. Walter isn't able to do that. He is programmed in such a way that, as a result, he's very dutiful. He puts himself in harm's way several times to save the human characters, even losing his hand in the process. On the surface, he loves humanity, but really, it's not love at all. It's just programming. He's a computer. So the film is really an analogy for how God gave mankind free will and how, because of that, mankind is then able to make the choice to abandon God. We start the film with a scene between David and Wayland. This scene takes place even before the events of the previous film, Prometheus. In the scene, Wayland talks to David about the search for meaning. Why are we here? Who created us? From that moment on, right through to the events of Covenant, these questions stick with David. They burrow under his skin to the point where he comes to the conclusion that creation is the key, the natural step in the evolution of life. He is to live by no other rules but his own, the truest form of what Nietzsche referred to as the Übermensch, or Overman, otherwise known as the Superman. So while David reflects that side of humanity that has rejected God, the man who becomes captain of the ship, Oram, is very much the opposite of that. He is a man of faith. However, Oram struggles with feelings of judgment from his crew. While it never explicitly says what faith he has, we are told that he is a believer in God, and the film uses that to look at how people of faith in a modern world, a scientific world, may feel marginalised and may feel as though they are looked upon as either religious fanatics or people who can't quite be trusted in some way because of their faith. The film does a very good job of taking that character and sticking him in with the rest of the crew and using him to look at the role that faith plays in society. There is a moment when one of the other main characters, the wife of the previous captain, tells him, "We need your faith. We don't have it, we don't share it, but we need it right now." The Nietzschean principles embodied in the character of David, in effect, are simply not enough. That's what faith gives, and that's what this film tells us, that actually, without faith, there is no hope.